being a woman, speaking about your mental health struggles with ADHD and bipolar depression. So these two things together, and I know you mentioned earlier, you're quite chaotic and your house is, everything is everywhere. Not that I can see that from this interview. It looks pristinely perfect. But how do you support these things now?
A psychiatrist once told me that one of the most difficult clinical distinctions to make is with women who have ADHD and who have what looks like depression, whether it is unipolar depression or it's bipolar depression, because a lot of sort of the hyper focus of ADHD, when we get into that, can look a little bit like a hypomanic state. I've also learned so much about bipolar as opposed to unipolar depression, which is what I thought I had, and indeed what most people think they have. But there is some more and more evidence that perhaps bipolar is much, much more common than we think. What a psychiatrist told me is that most of the time, if you're dysregulated, it's going to be a depression. And a lot of times, mania is not what we think it looks like, or perhaps a true mania is, but a hypomania, which hypo means less than, is what most of us get. And the thing is for me, what were my hypomanias, which I still get sometimes, are not bad things. They look like me feeling pretty creative. They look like me being in a good mood. They look like me, instead of needing 9 hours of sleep, maybe I need 7 hours of sleep. And they simply don't cause problems in people's lives whatsoever. So they don't get diagnosed because, we don't diagnose something that's not pathological, that's not causing an issue, until perhaps the person is at a crisis point in their life. And all of a sudden, that mania becomes much more pronounced and much more problematic. We think about somebody driving 90 miles an hour down, the interstate, and that's simply not what it looks like, and it's funny because even now, sometimes I'll feel a little bit up and I'll tell my mom and my boyfriend, and they'll be like so concerned. And I'm like, no, nothing is happening. Nothing bad is happening here. If I was saying, oh, I'm feeling kind of blue, I'm feeling a little depressed, that would be a very acceptable and normal thing for them to say. And they'd say, oh, I'm sorry, let us know what we can do. And if I say, hey, I'm feeling like a little bit up, let me know if anything strange is happening. They're like, is it okay? Do we need to call someone? And I'm like, nope, I'm just doing some watercolors. The watercolors are turning out nicely. And so I think us accepting that those natural ups and downs are part of a lot of people's mental health, and the ups don't have to be terrifying or pathological in the way that we're kind of used to thinking of them as being. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. And you just mentioned something there, around, and I think this is really interesting. Okay, around how other people help in this situation. And so, there's a lot of people that I know that suffer with ADHD in a beautiful way. Actually, they are some of the most successful people I know out there. Some of the most amazing founders have ADHD. But for people that maybe suffer with this and haven't got to that realization of where you've got to, where you seem to really understand yourself and manage it, how can others help in that situation around this as well? Because that's also really key, because also sometimes some people might react in the wrong way, which could actually really affect that individual.
I just want to jump in, and because you had asked about ADHD, I didn't talk about ADHD. I think ADHD is one of my favorite topics. I think neurodivergence is very much a feature, not a bug for humans. I think we need all sorts of different kinds of brains. I think ADHD brains, those who are on the autism spectrum, those with dyslexia, these are things that we have evolved because we need a wide variety of ways of humans thinking, the same way that some people are naturally night owls, because back in the day, it made sense to have a couple people who were wide awake at night, to have, a little eye out for whatever animals may be creeping around. And I think with my ADHD, I have come to really treasure it because my brain moves in ways that other people's don't, maybe who don't have ADHD and are more linear thinkers, which means that I can make creative connections that other people can't make. One of my friends who's an artist was saying, to be an artist is kind of to be a little bit more sensitive because you can perceive things in the world that others can't. So I think for anyone with ADHD, there can be so much frustration and so much struggle. For me, the really helpful things that I can do are find those little ways that I can try to keep myself as organized as possible, like having really specific locations. I have a little keychain that it's looks like a little birdhouse that sticks to the wall. And then the keychain is a bird who sits in the birdhouse. And so that makes me think, oh, my keys want to live in the house. So that's where they go. Trying to create as many structures for myself as possible where I am, creating backups upon the backups. But I think for other people, how you can support someone with ADHD, I will say that some of our behavior can be incredibly frustrating, mostly to ourselves, but certainly also to others. And my boyfriend is such a supportive and wonderful person. But, I think sometimes it can be confusing to others as to why we can't remember where an object is that we had in our hand 30 seconds ago, which makes things like leaving the house extremely difficult because we don't know where all of the items are. One way that my boyfriend supports this, and I think this might just be a natural talent of his, is having a shocking recall of where I have left things in my life. Like he just notices when I put something down. And so I'll be like, do you know where the Bluetooth speaker is? And he's like, it is on your upstairs vanity and you stood it upright. And I'm like, and then I get up there and it is indeed there. Understanding that messiness or our lack of organization or our always being 5 minutes late can really look like we're not being considerate. And the truth is that if I knew the ways to be that extremely conscientious, always on the ball person, I really would be. I would treasure that. And so just having that patience and that flexibility and sort of gently encouraging, something wonderful that he does is he's noticed that like if he starts even slightly tidying my house, I become the little Tasmanian devil and I'm in a rush just getting everything as clean as can be. For people in your life who have mood disorders, whether that be depression, unipolar depression or bipolar depression, just checking in and if they're in a low point, giving them outs. I will text a friend and say, hey, I know things are really hard right now. Don't worry about texting me back, but just know that I love you and I'm here. And then, do it again the next week. Because something that I found is people would check in on me. And instead of feeling, oh, people love me, they care about me, I would think, God, you're such a shitty friend. You didn't text them back. That's just one more bad thing about you. So keep making it really easy and low stress and telling them you don't need to give me anything right now. Let me just give you something.
Thanks so much for listening. To hear the full episode, there's a link in the description.